Hi there plugin lovers and welcome to Top 5 Friday, which is a bit like a zoo except the animals are plugins and there's no ice cream. I'm Tim Cant and a wise man once told me that the best things in life are freaks. Yeah, he was kind of a weird old perv, but he also told me about the best freeware plugins around, the top 5 of which I'm going to share with you right now. If you've got any suggestions of your own, why not spread the love and let us know what they are in the comments. Kicking off, ladies and gentlemen, this is limiter number 6. We get stomped by OBXD at 4. OTT squeezes in at 3. Make some noise for Tal at number 2. And Voxengo's stunning span takes the top spot. And number 5, limiter number 6 by Vlad G Sound. As the name might suggest, limiter number 6 is a limiter, but it doesn't just use heavy-handed brute force to squash your signal. Its compression panel brings juicy analog-style compression with a lighter touch, helping you to glue buses and tame instruments. Onto the limiting, there's peak limiting and high-frequency limiting on board, each with plenty of controls to tweak the reaction. Next, you can get even more anal about your tweaks with a well-kitted out clipper section, and then annihilate any last strays with digital brickwall-style limiting in the protection section. Metering is provided by the lovely looking VU meters, so you can watch your music dance as it's smashed to smithereens. There is a lot of stuff you can do with limiter number 6, but probably the most immediate and fun thing is to use the clipper. So we're going to turn off the compressor and the peak limiter, and let's turn on the clipper, and we'll have a listen to our sound. Very simple 808 sub kick drum in this case. Let's turn up the gain to warm it up a bit. Now, immediately that makes the sound knock a bit harder, and we can change its timbre with the threshold. The lower we go, the more kind of distorted it gets. You can also adjust the knee as well, which controls how dirty or clean you want it in this sort of case. Another thing we can do is change the mode the clipper is in, whether it's normal, mid-side or multi-band, and this gives us a bit of a different timbre and dynamic feel as well. So the multi-band gives us a kind of nice warm sound, which is pretty cool. And of course, the built-in protection stops the signal from peaking, so you can just go wild and create the craziest kick sounds you could possibly want. At 4, OBXD by Disco DSP. This synth is a tribute to the classic late 70s and 80s Oberheim polysynths. As such, it gives you a nostalgic sound with a very versatile set of tools to control it. In the retro style interface, you'll find 2 oscillators and a load of inspirational ways to blend them. There's also a juicy filter and amplitude envelopes, stereo spread, cross modulation, and loads of other ways to tweak the voices, including unison and detuned sounds. OBXD's simple looking modulation section is deceptively powerful, allows you to create modulation routings with ease that can affect the oscillator pitches, amplitudes, and the filter cutoff frequency. OBXD is a fantastic little Oberheim emulation, but it might be a little bit confusing if you haven't used this kind of synth before, so let's run through it quickly and just show you how it generally works. Now, this is the initial patch. Now there's some filtering on there. We can brighten up the sound by turning it up. Now the mode of the filter is controlled with this multi-knob. Now down here it's all low pass. And we can turn it up to our high pass up here. And in the middle, it's either a band pass or a notch, depending on whether this toggle is activated. Currently it's in band pass mode. We change it to notch. There's also a 24 dB mode, where it's a low pass all the time, and the multi controls the steepness of the filter slope. All very, very lovely. As you can hear, there's a bit of portamento on there, so we'll turn that down. And we can add some kind of analog style random detuning with the spread knob. Bit wonky there. And there's a unison mode, would you believe, which is nice. Pretty beefy, lovely stuff. Let's take a quick look at the oscillators. So we have two oscillators here. We'll turn these things off and turn their mix levels down. We play now, there's nothing. We'll turn this oscillator's mix up. We just get a real simple tone here. It's kind of a triangle thing, and we can add saw and pulse voices. So let's add this one in. And we can do a bit of cross modulation here as well. And we can get a bit funky with this by changing the tuning of the oscillators. Oh, there we go. And there is a step mode so that you can tune this in semitone steps. So if we turn that down. So that's great if you just want to do some semitone transposition. Well, that's kind of the meat and potatoes of it. So yeah, it's got a lovely lush analog sound and plenty of knobs and features to get your teeth into. And number 3, Extra Records OTT. This multiband compressor, developed by Extra Records, the force behind the massive SuperSynth Serum, was actually devised to mimic the Ableton Live Multiband Dynamics OTT preset, making it available for users of all DAWs in VST and AU formats. The signal is split into low, high and mid bands, and you essentially set the threshold for each band by dragging the black bar. You can control the gain of each band and the depth of the effect, which essentially acts like a mix control. There's input and output gain controls too, to run the signal hotter or colder. OTT features both upwards and downwards compression. Downwards is classic compression, reducing the peaks above the threshold, while upward brings any low portions of the audio below its threshold up. And these both reduce the dynamic range of the signal, creating that super squashed sound we know and love. So let's have a look at how OTT works in practice. First, we're going to play a loop dry, and then we're going to activate the plugin, and you're going to hear the quite dramatic effect it has on the sound. So what's happening here? Well, OTT works in 3 bands: high, medium and low. And each of these has a upwards compression section, which is kind of brownish, where the quiet parts are made louder, and a downward compression section, which is green, where the loud parts are made quieter. So let's turn down the gain on the high and the low sections. We'll just listen to the mid section and see what's happening here. Okay, now we can control where the upward and downward compression kick in by sliding this around. So there's no makeup gain on these, so if you turn it down a lot, it gets pretty quiet. We can also control the gain of each section, which controls how much time it spends in the downward section and the upward section. We can also control the amount of upwards and downwards compression with these knobs here. There's also a depth, which is like a wet-dry control. And a time, which controls attack and release time. So let's turn on the other sections by turning up their gain, and we'll see how we can control the sound as a whole. So let's boost this low end here. We're going to turn this up so that it spends more time in the upward compression section, so it's making the quiet parts louder. So as you can hear, it's very easy to get a kind of big booming bass, real squash sort of sound. Let's have a tweak the other sections as well. Make it knock a bit more. So yeah, super powerful and a fantastic free addition to anybody's plugin arsenal. At 2, Talasmaker. Sometimes it's the simple synths that cut through the crap that become the most successful, and Talasmaker is just such an instrument. You get 2 oscillators plus a sub-oscillator, pulse width, frequency modulation and ring modulation capabilities, and 2 LFOs and envelopes to modulate your sounds into exciting new realms. The synth also gives you an envelope editor, which will have you designing your own multi-stage envelope or LFO and assigning it to one of 8 parameters. There's also a Juno-style chorus, plus bit crushing, delay and reverb effects. Simple, but incredibly effective. So, Talasmaker is a simple synth, but one that you can get some pretty big sounds out of. We're going to make a sort of kind of grimy lead / bass noise now. We're going to start with the default patch. Currently oscillator 1 and the sub are turned up. We're going to turn the sub down so we can just hear oscillator 1. And let's turn up oscillator 2. Now these are both currently playing saw tones. We're going to change these to pulses. And what we're going to do is detune these very slightly. Keeping them centered around the root frequency. It's pretty nice. Let's play it on a lower octave and see what that sounds like. Yeah, now, that's all very well, but where things get really beefy is when we turn up the ring mods. So let's do that now. So there you go, that gives us that real dirty bass tone that we want, and we can also add some portamento as well, which makes things sound kind of cool. And turn up the portamento tone, we put it in auto mode, so it'll only happen when we play legato, so we'll go very nice. Another thing we can do is activate the chorus effects in this synth, which if you saw last episode, it's the same sort of Roland emulation chorus that's featured in Tal Uno LX, and you can also download as a separate free plugin as well, which I highly advise. So let's try adding these. Lovely, let's have a listen to chorus 2. And let's treat ourselves to both at once. Yeah, throbbing just how you like it. And at number 1, Span by Voxengo. A frequency analyzer at number 1, we hear you cry? Yes, and with good reason. Span is the secret weapon of tons of pro producers and offers capabilities that belie its non-existent price tag. Span is super accurate and easy to use, and is very much usable in its default state. But take a peek under the hood, you'll find an array of features and options that make it an indispensable production tool. Voxengo Span is a legit amazing plugin. Personally, I ruddy love it myself. I've used it on every project I've done for years and years and years. It can really help you get a decent mix down, especially if you're in a suboptimal mixing environment. It's absolutely packed with features, and of course it's free, so I really strongly recommend giving it a go for yourself. We'll take a real quick look at its primary features. We can play back our project here. Let's see what happens. There we go. We can see what's going on with our frequency content, and if we hold down Command or Control if you're on Windows and drag over the frequency display, we can bandpass it and hear what's going on. Oh, very useful indeed. If you're gagging for extra accuracy, we can hold down Alt and zoom in and look at things a little bit closer. We can zoom around with these things. We can pan around with this little fella here. Hold Alt and double click and we'll go back out. Also, there are various modes that we can use, which change the way the audio information is represented. All very nice, and these actually control what's going on in the Spectrum mode editor. You can do all kinds of stuff in here, but it's really fine just with default settings. I mean, you might want to play with a slope or something, mess around with a block size if it's looking a bit too complicated for you. And another cool thing is it offers a variety of metering modes, including your K metering, all this kind of jazz. Really, really worthwhile plugin. Absolutely fantastic Voxengo giving it away for free. A must download. Well, that's enough philanthropic fun for one day, my friends. It's time for me to crawl back into the crate that Plugin Boutique deigned to release me from once a fortnight. While I'm hibernating, why not check out the absolutely huge list of freeware goodies available on pluginboutique.com, including everything we've looked at today and a shed load more. Sayonara!